Tonight, the growing fallout of a major diplomatic confrontation. The political push after accusations India supported violent crimes on Canadian soil.
Impose severe and strict sanctions on Indian diplomats.
And reaction from Canada's Indian community, who say they are living in fear. The mounting internal push putting more pressure on the Prime Minister to step down. In the U.S., the presidential sprint to Election Day, the dance party.
Keep going, keep going.
And what a Canadian singer said about Donald Trump's use of his cover song. Inflation dips, but is it enough for another rate cut? Plus, banking on a big boost.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
The Taylor Swift effect on Toronto's economy. And the whiz kid from Winnipeg.
That was not expected at all.
Meet the neuroscience star acing the competition.
She's only in grade 11, which is mind-boggling when you think about it. No pun intended.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. The extraordinary diplomatic clash between India and Canada is making headlines in both countries tonight and drawing in a third, which is weighing its own geopolitical interests. The U.S. State Department refused to directly criticize India today, but did publicly reinforce its position that it should cooperate with Canadian authorities. This, as an Indian delegation was scheduled to travel to Washington, D.C. today as part of an ongoing investigation into a foiled murder-for-hire plot in New York. U.S. authorities claim India directed. CTV's Mike LeCouture starts us off on the deepening divide and the fallout.
India slams Canada. In fact, very strong language use is.
The diplomatic dispute has been all over Indian media. Pundits have been weighing in on possible escalation, while at least one prominent politician in Canada is calling for more action.
We will also urge Canada to ban the RSS, which is a right-wing extremist militant group from India.
Singh is also calling for an emergency meeting of the Parliamentary Committee on Public Safety. It comes a day after Canada expelled 6 Indian diplomats, including the High Commissioner. The RCMP alleges those people played a role in homicides, extortion, and other violent acts on Canadian soil. Canada says it had no other choice because India refused to cooperate with criminal investigations, and some allies seem to be supportive.
They're serious allegations, and we have wanted to see India take them seriously and cooperate with Canada's investigation. They have chosen an alternate path.
Last year, the U.S. leveled similar accusations of an alleged plot to carry out multiple assassinations in North America. However, some believe Americans haven't seen as much blowback from India because of how they took a more diplomatic route.
They have Indian officials now en route to Washington to discuss a similar situation that unfolded in their country. By going public, we have really blown this out of the water.
Allies might also be concerned about their own relationship with India, according to this former Canadian ambassador.
It's very hard to see how they would be able to apply pressure without taking significant hit to their own strategic bottom lines.
Arif Lalani adds it's difficult to see how this diplomatic deep freeze will be resolved in the short term, as both countries try and reassure the business community that billions of dollars in trade won't be affected. Omar?
All right, Mike, thank you. And the friction is unlikely to reignite progress on stalled talks towards a trade treaty between the two countries. Canada exports about $5.3 billion worth of goods to India and imports just over $8 billion from India. A bomb threat forced an Air India flight to make an emergency landing in Iqaluit this morning. Flight AI 127 was on its way to Chicago from New Delhi when it took the precautionary measure. The airline says it has received several threats in recent days. All of them, it says, have turned out to be hoaxes. The brewing diplomatic feud is also generating reaction in Canada's South Asian community. CTV's Adrian Gobrio reached out to some who claim they've been targets of violent extortion.
The scenes of bullets barreling towards South Asian-owned businesses have become all too common across parts of Canada.
If you're growing your business, be very careful because eventually these guys will get you.
For months, CTV News has been investigating multiple violent extortion attempts from Ontario to British Columbia. that mainly target Sikh South Asian business owners. Over the last year, some Indo-Canadians fearful for their lives began wearing bulletproof vests before leaving their homes.
Are you wearing one right now?
Yes, I do.
Can we see it?
Yes.
Those we spoke with had their theories that Indian government officials may be working with organized crime groups to carry out extortion attempts. This week, for the first time, the RCMP confirmed they believe that to be true.
I mentioned previously the Lawrence Bishnoi gang that's involved in extortions and narcotics originating from India.
Bishnoi is a gang leader who's currently behind bars in India, where it's believed he's still able to operate his criminal enterprise.
Is sitting in a prison cell, is able to give live interviews to media channels, is able to go on his Facebook Live and provide commentaries.
That doesn't happen, in your opinion, without the Indian government allowing it?
Of course.
This past winter, CTV News spoke with an individual who claimed he'd carried out violent extortions while working for another organized crime figure in India.
How many targets have you hit? How many homes? How many businesses?
In Canada, like around, I think 30 or 35, 40.
This week's revelation by the RCMP has put a community, once again, on high alert.
We're not too far, from the reaches of a government of India when they're operating on Canadian soil.
The RCMP claimed that those who've been targeted are members of the Sikh Khalistan separatist movement, who the government in India have labeled as terrorists. Though many we've spoken with say Canadian Sikhs across the political spectrum have received extortion threats. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Brampton, Ontario.
CTV's chief political correspondent Vashi Kapelas joins me now. And Vashi, taking a step back at a time when the U.S. and the EU are actively courting India as a way to reduce dependence on China, where does this latest dispute leave Canada?
Well, it kind of leaves us, Omar, on the sidelines. Now, both parties are insisting that trade between our two countries won't be affected. But from the conversations I'm having with people around the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Prime Minister, there is a concerted effort to ask the U.S. to play a bigger role, advocating for Canada's interests and ultimately perhaps as a mediator between our two countries.
And actually, switching gears, what are you learning about what's happening within the Liberal caucus and the growing pressure on Justin Trudeau to step down?
Well, growing is the right word to use. What I am hearing from multiple MPs is that that effort is still underway and that the plan is to present the Prime Minister internally with a signed or endorsed letter asking him to reconsider his future as the head of the Liberal Party by the end of this week. And then when Parliament Hill returns next week, to make those comments public at caucus, which occurs on Wednesday morning. That's the plan as those MPs see it right now. Omar?
All right, Vashi, thank you. Some good news for Canadians dealing with the cost of living. The annual inflation rate fell to 1.6% last month, mainly because drivers are paying less for gas. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has more on what it could mean for the Bank of Canada's interest rate decision next week.
The financial picture in Canada is slowly improving, and there's reason for continued optimism looking ahead.
We're seeing inflationary pressures come down. We have seen the labor market really weakening off in the last number of months, except for the latest month, the very latest month, where we saw a kind of resurgence in employment numbers.
All eyes will now be on the Bank of Canada's next interest rate announcement on October 23rd. A larger rate cut could be in the works.
It's possible that the bank acts more aggressively and lowers rates more quickly.
Canadian consumers are also getting a break at the pumps. Gasoline prices in September dropped 10.7% compared to 12 months earlier. However, the inflation news is not all good. Rent prices increased 8.2%. Mortgage interest costs in September were up 16.7% compared to September 2023. Groceries rose 2.4% in September, a faster climb compared to the overall inflation rate. This shopper is not finding many affordable deals.
I don't see it. I don't see it at all.
Sylvain Charlebois says it's difficult to predict when food prices will drop. There are two main factors keeping the cost of groceries from climbing even higher.
Energy costs and our dollar. Those are the two things that are keeping food inflation at bay. If, say, a barrel of oil would have actually gone up to over $80 or $90 because of what's going on in the Middle East, we would have been in trouble.
Charlebois says rising wholesale prices are causing meat, dairy, and produce to continue to climb in cost. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
And south of the border, with just 3 weeks to go until the U.S. presidential election, recent polls show it's a tight race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. In a frenzy of activity, both candidates are trying to shore up support with a blitz of rallies, talk shows, and even an impromptu dance party. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin explains.
In Chicago, Donald Trump refused to say if things will be peaceful should he lose the presidential election, calling the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
You had a peaceful transfer of power, and it was love and peace.
You had a peaceful transfer of power. You had a peaceful... Come on, President Trump.
Trump defended his call for massive tariffs economists say would drive the economy into a recession, and dodged questions if he's spoken to Russian President Vladimir Putin since leaving office.
Well, I don't comment on that, but I will tell you that if I did, it's a smart thing.
The race for president is neck and neck, both Trump and his rival Kamala Harris intensifying their attacks against each other.
I'm going to win, but it's tight. And you know, what is at stake is truly profound.
Reaching out to Black Americans on a popular radio show, Harris's new strategy, using Trump's own words against him.
The worst people are the enemies from within.
Playing clips at last night's rally of Trump talking about using the military to crack down on domestic enemies.
Donald Trump is increasingly unstable and unhinged.
And taunting Trump, questioning his mental fitness after the 78-year-old turned his town hall last night into a dance-a-thon.
So play YMCA. Go ahead. Let's go. Nice and loud.
Here we go, everybody.
Cutting his rally short after two people in the audience fainted from heat. For 39 minutes, Trump played DJ.
All right, turn that music up.
Canadian Rufus Wainwright said he was mortified
Goes like this, the fourth, the fifth.
hearing his rendition of Hallelujah on Trump's playlist.
And early voting began today in Georgia, shattering records. Both candidates are on a blitz, hitting battleground states that will decide this election. Omar?
All right, Joy, thank you. A U.S. missile defense system arrived in Israel with troops to operate it, even as the U.S. issued an ultimatum to Israel today, giving it 30 days to improve the humanitarian situation in Gaza or risk having future American military aid cut.
There's a short window in which we want to see changes because the humanitarian situation is so dire on the ground, but it is appropriate to give them some time to work through the different issues.
Human rights groups say 400,000 Palestinians in northern Gaza are trapped, starving, and being bombed. Also today, according to sources in the Biden administration, Israel has informed the U.S. it plans to limit counterstrikes against Iran to military targets rather than nuclear or oil sites. Both the U.S. and Canada designated the pro-Palestinian group Samidun a terrorist entity today. It follows last week's protest on October 7th, organized by the group in Vancouver, where people could be seen burning Canadian flags and chanting anti-Semitic slogans on the one-year anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel. Police in Hamilton, Ontario say a feud between two rival schools has turned deadly. A series of escalating incidents leading to a fatal crash, killing a teenager and sending shockwaves through the community. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
The flag at St. Jean de Brébeuf Catholic Secondary School flies at half-mast today. The community mourning the death of a 15-year-old killed in a car crash on Friday. Police say beef between two rival schools escalated into a car chase that killed Jaden Russell, a grade 10 student described by loved ones as athletic, funny, and most of all, kind. As his friends left school today, none of them wanted to speak on camera. They're still too shocked, they say, over what happened. Police say the feud first began last week with a number of large gatherings of students, some with weapons and bear spray. On Friday, things escalated further when two cars, a Ford Focus and Silver Infiniti, began chasing a RAV4 in the school parking lot.
All three vehicles fled at a high rate of speed out of the parking lot. They went to the Lincoln Alexander Parkway. A collision occurred.
Witnesses told police 2 of the vehicles collided and lost control. The SUV with 3 people inside rolled several times. All 3 were taken to hospital where Jaden Russell died. 18-year-old Vincenzino Stumpo has been charged with dangerous operation causing bodily harm and dangerous operation causing death. Police say they are working with the schools and the community to try and stop this feud from going any further.
We're really encouraging parents to talk to their kids today and moving forward. Get as much information as we can to prevent this from happening again.
Police had been looking for a third driver of that Infiniti, but say late this afternoon they came forward. They are being interviewed by detectives, but police say at this point it's too early to say whether they will face any charges. Heather Wright, CTV News, Hamilton, Ontario.
An emotional night for hockey fans at the Columbus Blue Jackets home opener.
As we raise a banner in his memory and for the legacy of number 13.
That banner raised to honor Johnny Gaudreau, who was killed alongside his brother Matthew by an alleged drunk driver back in August. Gaudreau's wife Meredith was in attendance with his daughter and son. She's pregnant with their 3rd child. Coming up.
That's the important thing about these major events is that it draws people into the city, it draws new spending into the city. That's money that didn't start the day in our economy, but it ends the day there.
Will Taylor Swift's Toronto takeover be a boon to the economy? Plus, the Brain Bee star student generating quite the buzz.
Tomorrow,
they just began taking their turn.
the shocking reason this woman didn't report a gang sexual assault.
They were teenagers.
And how police let her down twice. W5 investigates tomorrow on CTV National News.
Excitement for Taylor Swift's upcoming concerts in Toronto is building. 6 sold-out shows next month are expected to boost the local economy by millions. CTV's Raheem Ladani calculates the impact of the Swift effect.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
In less than a month, Taylor Swift will descend upon Toronto for 6 concerts.
You're making me feel excellent.
And along with her Swifties comes hundreds of millions of dollars for the city.
And I can't wait until she comes here and drives economic growth.
New figures from Destination Toronto estimate Swift shows will generate $152 million in direct spending. 93% of that will come from out-of-town visitors. However, when the concerts are over and the screaming fans are gone, the economic boost doesn't stop. Swift's lasting impact is expected to grow to $282 million.
That's the important thing about these major events is that it draws people into the city, it draws new spending into the city. That's money that didn't start the day in our economy, but it ends the day there and then continues to circulate, paying wages, paying taxes, and supporting businesses all throughout the city.
Those dollar figures do not include the actual concert tickets or airfare because that money generally doesn't stay within the local economy. It does, however, include attractions, local transportation, and dining out. Inside Steam Whistle Brewing across the concert venue, staff are hoping for a business bump, especially this time of year.
In October, November, it starts to get cold. There's less people moving around. It's not summertime anymore, so we're really depending on Taylor Swift coming in a way to get that volume once again from our previous summer. And it all begins with Swift's first concert on November 14th. Raheem Ladani, CTV News, Toronto.
And pop star Olivia Rodrigo reassured fans after falling through a trap door on stage last night.
Oh my God, that was fun. I'm okay.
Video of the mishap during her show in Melbourne was shared online. Rodrigo bounced back and ended up finishing the performance like a pro. Still ahead, a giant inflatable Halloween decoration causes a commotion. An Ontario couple is celebrating a massive change in fortune after winning $40 million. Stephanie and Brian Cantwell split the $80 million jackpot, the largest in Canadian Lotto history, with another winning ticket sold in Quebec. The couple was so shocked they didn't know what to do, so they went to work as usual. But they say it didn't take long for news of their financial windfall to finally sink in. The Professional Women's Hockey League is returning for its second season with an expanded schedule. The action will kick off on November 30th with the Toronto Scepters taking on Boston. The regular season will draw to a close on May 3rd. A Halloween hijinks led to a giant holiday decoration going rogue close to Cleveland, Ohio. Dashcam footage captured a police officer being called in to rein in a runaway inflatable pumpkin blocking the road. And moments later, the pumpkin attacks, appearing to swallow the officer whole. But fear not, the officer eventually manages to get the scary situation under control. After the break, a bright Canadian teenager's global bragging rights. A Winnipeg whiz kid has earned some serious bragging rights after competing with some of the world's most intelligent teenagers in a contest testing the wits of high school students on the wonder of the brain. Here's CTV's Alex Karpa on her final grade against the competition.
A Winnipeg high school student is one of the smartest in the world when it comes to neuroscience, finishing second in the International Brain Bee competition.
For me, it was like so surprising. I was not expected at all.
Lisa Way, a grade 11 student, competed against more than 3,000 other students from 40 countries. She says the competition focuses on facts about the brain, from basic function to higher levels like emotion and memory.
I spent my summer months learning it, setting goals, for example, how many chapters or articles to read per day.
And her love for the brain comes from how sophisticated it is.
And how such organ can simply lead to extremely complex phenomena such as behavior, emotion, and memory, and also aspects of learning problem solving.
The competition was held online earlier this month. The judges ran out of questions to ask Way and her Australian competitor since they knew all the answers. Dr. Robert Beattie, a professor in the University of Manitoba's College of Medicine, worked with Way and says it's a testament to her skill.
This competition is incredibly difficult, and these questions are postgraduate level. And so she's only in grade 11, which is mind-boggling when you think about it, no pun intended. But she's really just a phenomenal student, and we're extremely proud here.
Beattie says Winnipeggers have been successful in the Brain Bee, winning 3 of the last 4 competitions at the Canadian level.
We're training through this competition the next generation of neuroscientists and next generation of healthcare workers, and just instilling that passion for science in these students.
The competition is open to all high school students across the country and is an opportunity for students to learn more about neuroscience. The Canadian National Brain Bee will be held in Toronto in May. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
And that's a snapshot of this Tuesday for all of us at CTV National News. Thanks for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.